What do you do as a music student when everything gets canceled, put on hold indefinitely? Today, we're taking a look inside the journey of Will Duerden, a student of Caroline Emery's who is studying at the Royal College of Music in London. Will started playing bass at age 8 and met Caroline at age 9.
Initially, the first part of it, I had to be incredibly nurturing. I mean, you can imagine, I put him on a French bow and gave him appropriate equipment and so on and so forth. And so the first, 2 terms, like the first 6 months, was incredibly nurturing without putting him off, and then trying to make sure that he felt very relaxed.
From a very early stage, Caroline knew that Will was going to be a special player. At the time, Caroline was developing what would turn into her well-known book, Bowworks. Will served as a sort of guinea pig for Caroline as she was developing these materials.
He was excited to do that because he was like the secret spy for the new material, you know? So that was fun. But I mean, I think I did feel quite early on that he was going to be something special.
Like a lot of people do, I think I might have started on piano and just kind of messed around because my whole family is very musical. So I've been growing up with it, heard it probably. I think I had a couple piano lessons before. But then I was taken to an orchestral rehearsal with my family and kind of asked, what do you want to do? Come on, pick an instrument. And I just looked over, scanned the orchestra, found the bass section and just said, I want to do that one. Which was met with a bit of hesitation because, there's a flute here or a violin a lot smaller. But no, I was pretty adamant with bass. I think once I started bass and once I started developing and actually being able to play the pieces and then playing the harder pieces, I think it was just so much excitement and such enjoyment every single time you got that piece and then started on the next one that I didn't really want to stop. And I think from a young age I could see myself going, I'm happy keeping going down this road because I enjoyed it so much.
Well, he was a normal 10-year-old. I mean, when the snow came, he played snowballs, and when he was tired, we'd go for a little walk and look at the trees and so on. But it was always very nice. I really looked forward to his lessons on Fridays because his mum used to come and bring sweets for the whole bass class.
The celebrated violinist Yehudi Menuhin founded his school in Surrey in 1963 to provide a place for musically gifted children from around the world to develop their talents to the highest level within a nurturing and stimulating academic environment, regardless of their economic background.
I mean, the Menuhin School is a fantastic place for a bass player to grow. It's a bit scary also because you've got these wonderful violinists and cellists and pianists around. So there's a lot of good music making, which is sort of, I think it's fair to say that I think violinists and cellists can achieve higher levels technically often earlier than bass players. The students there go to at least 2 lunchtime concerts a week. Their peers play performances, and the whole school has to listen. You get used to listening critically. You get used to hearing some wonderful sounds. It's quite rare that somebody goes on the platform and plays when they're not ready. Everybody plays from memory. That's another thing that bass players don't always get that training.
The school currently provides education to 86 students from the ages of 8 to 19, and Will found him surrounded by not just great bassists, but great players on all different kinds of instruments.
Listening to the basses of the past and the teachers is what you need to become a fantastic bassist, but then hearing all these incredible violinists or pianists or cellists play their sonatas, it just kind of makes you want to think, I can try and do that with my pieces on the bass.
At age 17, Will auditioned for a coveted place in the BBC Young Musician Competition, which is the top competition of its kind in the United Kingdom. He achieved a place in the finals of the string category, and he's only the second bassist to ever do so.
For bass players to get to that coveted competition in the UK, it's very rare. And Will achieved that as well.
Preparing for this competition was a breakthrough of sorts for Will.
His breakthrough was playing some of the Hurtle pieces. That was when he was about 15. And then we decided to move towards a little bit of Bottesini. For the BBC competition, he played the J.C. Bach second movement, the slow movement from the... I mean, the BBC competition is a very, very coveted place. And I think 2 years before that, there was a violinist who got to the finals from the Menuhin School. And she was delighted, and everybody, there's always somebody from the school doing very well. So I think the students grow up with it, really. It's something they might aspire to. The string part of that competition is enormous. I mean, they might have about 600 people apply, and then there's like a first round, a second round, and then you get to what they call the category finals, which is a string final. I think it was always on the card. So it wasn't until he was about 15 or even 16, I suddenly thought, hey, shall we do it? And he said, well, do you think I could? And I said, of course you can.
Working on Bottesini for this competition took his playing to a whole new level.
For Bottesini, you need to be very clear on what idea you're wanting to come across, because it's quite a jokey piece, but you have to have very strong musical ideas, otherwise it can just sound quite silly, really. So instead of practicing for stamina for that, it was more practicing how I wanted to perform it and how I wanted to showcase different parts of the piece. And the same with the Bach, how I wanted to kind of really get that certain interval to be that special interval, and how I wanted to phrase it. It's different practice for different pieces.
Will also won the Walter Todd's Prize for the most outstanding contribution in the category finals, who did not proceed to the concerto finals.
Will managed to go a little bit further, and got to the string final, which was really good. But in order to do that, when you have to apply for the young musician, you have to have got quite a bit of repertoire underneath your belt. So, for example, you apply in July, and you have to say what you're going to play, which will be in the first rounds are in September, October. And then if you get as far as the string final, then you have it's a roughly 15 to 18 minutes worth of stage. So a lot of people play 3 pieces. Sometimes we play 2 pieces. But then if you get further than that, there's another round, which is a final. And then there's a final, which is a concerto final. So it goes down from 5 competitors, and then they choose 3 for the concerto final. So you actually have to have a concerto underneath your fingertips as well, almost a year before. And he said, well, if I'm going to do this competition, I've got to play something that adjudicators won't think it's bass music. So he embarked on the Tubin Concerto.
It's an incredible piece. It's definitely one of my favourites, if not the favourite to play. That ended up being by far the hardest part about the whole piece, because once I'd got it under my fingers and I decided how I wanted to perform it and everything, it was getting through it, because it's mainly, there's not much break time in the whole piece, and as you know, it's very intense. And it gets to the last page just after the cadenza, and it was just towards the end of that where you have all the massive octave shifts and the double stops at the end and that horrible 5th bit. I would just get to the end of that page and kind of sweating, just panting. I really had to work a lot to build up the stamina to get through that. With orchestra, of course, it's amazing because you're playing with orchestra and it's just, you hear all the different parts. But with piano, I remember I played it mainly with amazing pianist at the Menuhin School, Svetlana, and it's so well written. And there's not many bass pieces like it, which I think is why it's so special and it's so just amazing to play. And I absolutely love it.
We have to remember that he was a proper composer. He wrote symphonies and all the rest of it. I mean, that sounds really rude to the bass community. I don't mean it to be rude like that, but it's a very well crafted piece. I mean, for me, Will just like he had the whole place like on, like this, with the slow movement. It's just a very expressive piece. It's quite exciting. It's sort of a different language from what most teenagers would be used to. It's also very emotional, and Will is very able to get inside the emotional side of music.
When he was 17 years old, he won the Peter Morrison competition at the Royal College of Music's junior department. The competition is an all-instrument concerto competition. The prize was to perform his concerto with the RCM junior department. The Tubin Concerto was performed in March 2019, and Will also was engaged to perform the concerto with another orchestra in Horsham in the south of England. In December 2018, Will was awarded a full scholarship to study at the Royal College of Music, continuing under Caroline Emery. Later in his new year, the scholarship was converted to a scholarship awarded by the Associated Board of the Royal College of Music, which is a very prestigious award. In May 2019, Will won first prize in the Haslemere string competition. This was a very important event for Will because the sponsors of the event took an interest in him and asked Caroline to help Will find a bass. This instrument was found at Robertson and Sons Violins in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it was Will's first trip to the United States.
Well, I was doing a competition last year, and this amazing couple just saw me and they liked my playing. And as you know, instruments are quite expensive a lot of the time. Basses are cheaper than the rest of them, thank God, but they're still quite expensive. Honestly, I don't have any money at all to spend on a bass. And they found this out and they just said, you can get this bass. And to have the choice of just every single bass you can look at, it was absolutely incredible. And we tried so many basses. But finally, the decision was made. It was quite a quick decision to go to Albuquerque because we'd heard of this amazing bass which was kind of circling around the States and had ended up in Robertson's. So we went there and Aaron and everyone there was just so amazing. They gave us all of these basses to play with and just set up anything we wanted at all. And finally brought out this bass. It's by Carlo Laveri, Naples, 1873, I think. And I just played it and it was... I mean, we tried a lot of basses, but this honestly just, my God. And it was with old strings on, orchestral tuning, and wasn't quite the finished setup yet. So we spent ages trying out, I can't tell you how many different combinations of strings, and different bridge settings and moving the sound post a bit. And finally we found something, perfect combination, perfect positioning, and it's just... Immediately I just knew it was the bass I would play until I die. It's amazing. But the best thing about going on to this bass is that everything that I've ever learned on bass was just nothing for this bass. It could do it instantly. Like I tried playing the Tubin when I was in Albuquerque, and what was a struggle on my last bass and bits where I really had to put in a lot of work, this bass would just do that and more. And there were so many sounds and colors and even dynamics which I kind of tested out and thought, okay, I didn't know that existed before. I didn't know this color existed. I didn't know I could play this quiet. And it was just so exciting.
Being on a decade-long journey like this is such a special thing for both the teacher and the student.
It's pretty special. I mean, I've had quite a few other students who have, been with me for about 8 or 9 years. Tim Gibbs, I took right through from age 7 to 22. It's unusual. I mean, I do make sure that they don't just hear my voice. So, run bass club and so on. And, they're forever playing in other opportunities. For example, if we could get Will over to the ISB, that would be amazing. It's a little bit complicated with travel costs and so on. But, I mean, it's certainly, I don't rule it out. It wasn't possible in his teens just because he was busy and there wasn't any finance, but now he's a scholar at the Royal College. He's having lots of opportunities, although of course sadly his first year has been cut short, which is a real shame. But he's very busy and he's learning lots of repertoire, and I think it will be very fruitful in the near future. So lots of opportunities, I think. And what's so nice about Will is that he's a very humble person. Very easy to get on with. I mean, the younger students look up to him, the older students rally around him, and a lot of them are very excellent players in their own right as well. He's achieved something. He had a tough start in life, but we've managed to get through that, and he's been absolutely dedicated and hardworking and tough, actually. very strong person.
Like the rest of the world, Will was thrown a major curveball, but Will is in remarkably good spirits.
It was spooky. I've never seen my hometown just completely abandoned. It was really, really quite eerie. You run out of things to do pretty fast with nowhere to go and nothing coming up. It gets a bit frustrating not having anything to actually work forward to, and just talking to a lot of people. I spent a lot of time catching up with people.
This is a setback for everyone, of course, but Will is staying positive about the future, and he has great plans in store for him.
I absolutely love solo playing. I love the pieces. It's just the best feeling in the world to be able to showcase what you can do, and for other people to enjoy it. It's one of the best feelings I've ever experienced. And of course, I'd love to do it my entire life, but I find it quite difficult just focusing on that one career path, because there's always a chance it just won't happen. And there's just the realist side of me is thinking, I love orchestra as well. It's another one of my favorite things to do. So I think ideally a world where I could do a bit of both. Obviously, I wouldn't mind being a world-class soloist and touring around the world doing concerts, but at the same time, I would be more than happy finding a good orchestra and just having an orchestral career. And obviously, I don't think I'll ever stop playing solo concerts. If people want me to do a concert, I'll do a concert. As long as I'm still wanted, I'll be around.